way, he keeps getting asked about it, and he keeps talking about it. It's also clear his far-right supporters are not moving on, not even the one who explicitly said that he was just yesterday.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands.
That was prominent conservative podcaster and author Charlie Kirk just yesterday saying he is done talking about Epstein. He trusts the administration yesterday. Today, he's back to talking about it.
I want to make an addendum to what was said yesterday is we're going to keep on talking about it. When I said for the time being, I was talking yesterday. I was telling the audience, guys, I got a whole deck of stories I got to cover here. For the record, if you are transcribing, we're not moving on.
Nor is the president. Caitlin Collins reported last night several people familiar with his thinking told CNN that the president was privately urging his team to let the story die. Instead, he keeps talking about it, including just a few minutes ago, returning from a visit to Pittsburgh.
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going.
Well, that soundbite is one of the reasons why. So are the ones from earlier today. Here he is defending Attorney General Bondi's decision, which she announced 8 days ago, to put a lid on further disclosures in the case. His remarks were in response to a question about something former RNC co-chair Larry Trump said previously about the need for transparency.
Mr. President, your daughter-in-law said that there should be transparency in the Epstein case. Do you agree with her, sir?
The Attorney General's handled that very well. She's really done a very good job, and I think that when you look at it, you'll understand that. I would like to see that also, but I think the Attorney General, the credibility is very important, and you want credible evidence for something like that, and I think the Attorney General's handled it very well.
Now, that's interesting because the Attorney General was one of the people who appeared on TV seeming to hype what was going to be released, and now she's trying to move on, refusing repeatedly to answer questions today about Epstein, the decision not to release more information, or questions about her relationship with FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino. Here she was today at a press conference. She wanted to focus on fentanyl.
Nothing about Epstein. I'm not going to talk about Epstein. I'm going to be here for as long as the president wants me here, and I believe he's made that crystal clear. No, I'm not going to talk about personnel matters. No, I'm not going to discuss personnel matters. I think we all are committed to working together now to make America safe again. Only on topic, guys. Our memo speaks for itself.
So she at least seems to be doing what the president reportedly wants, which is moving on, even if he himself is not. In fact, he's actually going beyond just answering questions. He's now trying to spin the story in a way that blames Democrats. Here's what he said when asked if the Attorney General told him whether he is named in the Epstein files.
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen, and I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it.
Well, keep it honest, it's not exactly outlandish to wonder about the president's connections with Epstein, given that they've crossed paths and shared moments many times over the years, both in New York and Mar-a-Lago circles. As he himself told New York Magazine in 2002, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He went on to say he's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Now, in addition, a good deal of the Epstein case's pivotal moments, including Epstein's death in jail in 2019, happened during the first Trump administration. So even if everything to do with the president, both in office and before, are all completely innocent and above board, as they very well may be, the connections themselves are still there. And if they're mentioned in the Epstein files, it's likely not because James Comey or President Obama or Biden had it in for him. In any event, if the president wanted to make this go away, he's not really doing what it takes, if he even could. Because having hyped the story for months and years, many in the administration are now discovering how well the hype worked. Here's Attorney General Bondi shortly before the first disappointing batch of Epstein material was released.
The FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. and there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now.
Oh, that was the Attorney General in May, and Joe Rogan now.
They got videotape, and all of a sudden they don't. You know, you have the director of the FBI on this show saying there's no if there was, nothing you're looking for is on those tapes. Like, what? She said something about that there was like thousands of hours of tapes of people doing horrible crimes.
There is.
Cash Patel said there's nothing you're looking for. Oh, okay. Okay.
So the hype worked, and now the disappointment is real. And on Capitol Hill, a credibility gap has opened up on both sides of the aisle, because even though only one Republican voted with House Democrats on a failed amendment to force a vote on releasing the Epstein files, some are saying things like this.
I do think there needs to be more transparency. I do think that all needs to move forward. And I think the administration needs to address that.
But you don't believe what the Justice Department is saying?
I don't know. No, I don't. I don't trust them.
We should put everything out there and let the people decide it.
Joining me now with more of the fallout around the Epstein files, CNN chief White House correspondent and anchor of The Source, Caitlin Collins. So we mentioned you're reporting that President Trump had privately urged his team to let the Epstein story die. He certainly gets asked about it. He keeps talking about it. Where does this go from here?
I mean, it's certainly not dying down like the White House had hoped. And they actually thought, Anderson, that last week when we were in that cabinet meeting, and the president kind of exploded when he was asked by a reporter initially about the anger that was building within MAGA about this. And he had this kind of confused answer, asked why people were still talking about that given what was happening. But in the days since then, we have not seen his supporters fall in line with that reaction and get behind what he is saying. Instead, they've only gotten angrier and had more questions for this administration and more criticism over the top people at the FBI and DOJ about this and about their handling of this. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the past comments that you heard from Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, even before they took these jobs, but also the Attorney General when she was speaking just there. That was in front of the West Wing of the White House. She'd already been inside the Department of Justice. It gave it more of a veneer of credibility when she was talking about the Epstein files in that moment. And so we are only seeing this continue to build, despite what White House officials had hoped would be happening, that they would tamp down and that they would get fewer questions on this. But I do think right now, you know, from my sense in speaking to people at the White House yesterday and today, is they are realizing that this isn't going away immediately. They do believe ultimately it will, and they think, you know, with the fact that Dan Bongino came back to work yesterday, tried to quiet that down, they were hoping that that would quiet all of this down, but right now that does not appear to be the case. And you heard the president there, he was blaming the media for talking about this. It's certainly not the media, though, that has caused this. It is his own supporters that are very angry about this and say, essentially, they believe they were promised one thing and then got another.
And is Dan Bongino, I mean, he's back at work. Is he staying there? I mean, it seems incredible that whatever happened between him and the Attorney General, that seems kind of unprecedented that he would continue on.
Yeah, and I asked the president about that today because I wanted to know, where does he stand on Dan Bongino? And the question I asked Anderson was, does he have confidence in his deputy FBI director? And this is what he said today.
I like Dan Bongino, yeah.
That wasn't exactly an answer to the question about confidence in him, but he said he does like him. He certainly has been more vocal in his support for the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, here.
Caitlin, thanks very much. We'll see you at the top of the hour for The Source. Joining me now, CNN political analyst, New York Times White House correspondent Maggie Haberman. Maggie, what are you hearing about how this saga is playing out at the White House, how the president is viewing it all privately?
Very similar to what Caitlin is hearing, Anderson. People at the White House, did not expect this to take on the life that it has over the last several days. Excuse me. And this is a president, as you know, who has ridden out, along with his aides, many controversies. This was expected to be one of them. They still expect it will be one of them, but it's not going away. And as you have noted for now, and as you and Caitlin both noted, it's not going away because of things that the president is saying, but also because of the words of his own government. I mean, this is his FBI director, his deputy FBI director, his attorney general. They are fighting with each other over what the actual truth is. This scene with Dan Bongino last week, it's quelled for now, but it's not clear how you can, have that kind of a controversy and last very long. So we'll see where this goes. But, it's very rare, Anderson, that there's been a conspiracy theory that President Trump has not fanned the flames of in the past, and this is the one he doesn't want to.
And Speaker Johnson said that the administration should put everything out there related to the Epstein files. President Trump himself said that Bondi should release, quote, whatever she thinks is credible. Are there any indications the Justice Department is actually going to release more information?
There's a lot of pressure on the Justice Department to try to do something more. There's been, as I'm sure you're aware, discussion of a special counsel, which is very complicated for a lot of reasons, and a bunch of people inside the administration do not want that. But, you know, I think they are probably, what they're discussing right now, again, I don't want to predict because this whole thing has been very messy. There is a discussion about releasing some sort of additional material. We will see what that looks like. The problem they've created for themselves, Anderson, is whatever partial information they release, it will never be seen as enough. It will never be believed. And I think this has been a real lesson to top officials in this government that, you know, if you say something over and over again, your own followers are not necessarily going to stick with you if you say something different later.
Well, particularly when those top officials in the government are the ones who previously were saying these things, were leading the charge on this. I mean, that's what's so remarkable to me. And then there's also the other layer of, I mean, I don't know Dan Bongino's motivation at all, but I assume he doesn't think he's going to be working the FBI for the rest of his life. And if he wants to get back into podcasting, it would seem this is the opportunity for him to jump back into it now while he still has a reputation in the conspiracy world intact. Or I don't know if he does anymore have it intact.
I suspect that he does, but I mean, at least to some degree. But, you know, I think that you hit on two separate issues. One is all of these folks, you know, almost all of these folks, their credibility and their profiles come from proximity to President Trump. And folks around President Trump are very aware of that. And so you saw Bongino, you know, stay, at least for now, within the government. Pam Bondi had a career prior to President Trump becoming president, but she is mistrusted by elements of the MAGA base. And so that is part of the sub-issue you're seeing here as well. And where this leads and how much of it, you know, President Trump has to keep trying to tamp down remains to be seen. But, you know, barring some other, you know, major news story, he is going to get asked about this for a while. The irony here, too, Anderson, just to add to this, I keep hearing from Democrats, yes, some of whom want to see additional files released, others who can't believe that Democrats are chasing this story, you know, down the road while Republicans are fighting amongst themselves. And this bill that makes massive cuts to Medicaid is in play for Republicans as something the Democrats were going to focus on, and instead now they're talking about this conspiracy theory.
Maggie Haberman, thanks very much. My next guest is award-winning